Well, good morning. I wanted to spend time on this video looking at the concept of elasticity, and this will be from chapter 5 of your textbook. And within this chapter, we're going to be looking at elasticity from a variety of different angles. First, demand, supply, then cross price elasticity, then income elasticity. So each of these is fairly involved, so we'll go ahead and get into it and start looking at the price elasticity of demand. Okay, the price elasticity of demand is a measure of how much quantity demanded, which is QD, of a good changes when the price of the good changes. So again, it's a measure of the extent to which quantity demanded of a good changes when price of a good changes. Okay. And the way we calculate this is percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Okay. And to break down the formulas of the percentage change in quantity demanded, here's how we do that. The new quantity demanded value minus the original quantity demanded over the new quantity demanded plus the original quantity demanded divided by 2 and times 100. Okay, so this is the formula for the numerator part of the equation. The denominator is very similar, where we take the new less the original on the numerator, then the denominator we have the new plus the original divided by 2 times 100. So that's how we would calculate it from formula standpoint. I was trying to zoom in on this graph here as much as I can. Okay, so this is just showing how you might calculate this when you have two different points on a line. So this is a starting point, point 1 it says, and then we have a new point here. Okay, so from this data we can get the change points from this. Okay, from this point to this point, quantity went from 15 to 5, which is a change of 10, and from this point price went from 3 up to 5. Okay, so price increased by 2 and quantity decreased by 10. Okay, so that's how you would interpret that off the graph. Okay, now let's look at levels of elasticity. Okay, so we're doing problems or looking at illustrations. They usually fall, there is usually either elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic. Okay, so when something's elastic, it means the calculation we just looked at is greater than 1. Okay, and a curve that is elastic is usually fairly flat. Okay, meaning for a little change here, you're going to get a big change here, and that's what this is illustrating. Small change in price results in a big change in quantity. So when something's elastic, the curve is more flat. Okay. All right. The next category would be unit elastic. Unit elastic is where percentage change is the same. This is where the percentage change in price equals the percentage change in quantity, and that's what a unit. So it equals 1. Your equation, when you calculate that, it would equal 1, and it would be illustrated like this. And then the third scenario is something inelastic. And here's where your calculation would be less than 1. And then your curve would be more vertical, meaning the change here results in a smaller change here, is what this is indicating. Okay. Quantity changed 10%, price changed 20. So this would be considered inelastic. Okay, then again, the equation, greater than 1, it's elastic. Equation says it's 1, it's unit. When it's less, between 0 and 1, it is inelastic. Okay, so those are levels of elasticity. Now we'll look at the demand curve. And we're going to use point B as a reference point. Okay, see if we can zoom in a little bit better. All right, so point B will be our reference point. And what this is showing here at this point, it's unit elastic because its elasticity demand is 1. So any points above here is elastic, and points below are inelastic. Okay, so you might keep that in mind just by relationship. As far as things that affect the price elasticity demand, we got two main influences here. The availability of substitutes and the proportion of income spent. First, we'll look at the availability of substitutes. Okay. If there's a lot of substitutes available, you're more likely to be elastic. If it's hard to find, rare, it'd be more inelastic. Okay. The longer the time elapsed since last price change equals a more elastic demand. Okay. And then the fourth variable affecting availability of substitutes is how the good is defined. If it's got a real narrow definition, then it would be more elastic. If it's real broad, it would be elastic on how the item is defined. Okay, so that's the first influence, availability of substitutes, and the second influence, proportion of income spent. Basically, this says the greater percent of income spent on an item, the more elastic it is. So the greater the percent of the income spent, more elastic it is. And then the last variable affecting price elasticity is the relationship to total revenue. Okay, relationship to total revenue for the price elasticity demand. Again, total revenue is a calculation you get when you multiply the price times quantity. So if the price is 10, quantity is 100, then the total revenue is 10 times 100 or 1,000. Okay, so we will look at the relationship of elasticity to total revenue. If it's elastic, a given percent increase in price creates a larger percent decline in quantity demanded. Okay, so a given percent increase in price results in a larger percent decline in quantity demanded. Again, the law of demand, price goes up, quantity goes down. Okay, so total revenue decreases. Okay, and price and total revenue go in the opposite directions. Okay, price increase, total revenue decrease. That's what that's saying. And that's if it's elastic. If it's inelastic, a given percent rise in price creates a smaller decline in quantity demanded, and total revenue increases. Here, when it's inelastic, price and total revenue go in the same direction, whereas if it's elastic, they go in the opposite direction. So the difference in the two. Then thirdly, if it's unit elastic, and this happens when price change doesn't change total revenue. So if it's unit, there is no change in total revenue. Okay. So that's the price elasticity of demand. Now we'll look at kind of the flip side of it, the price elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of supply is a measure to the extent to which the quantity supplied of good changes when the price of the good changes. So just the flip side of the demand. Here the formula, very similar to elasticity of demand, but here is a percentage change in quantity supplied over change in price. Okay. So the new minus the original quantity supplied over new plus the original divided by 2, same as the demand formula. So that's percentage change in quantity supplied, percentage change in price. Here it's just a new price minus the original price divided by new plus the original price divided by 2. Okay. So very similar to that. Then we take this number, which is this one, over this number, and that will give us our elasticity. So very similar to demand. Similarly, we have different levels of elasticity, just like we did in demand. If it's elastic, it's a scenario where you've got a flat curve again. Here it's a demand curve, though. So it's relatively flat here. And here, in addition to seeing it from being flat, the calculation will be greater than 1. Unit elastic, again, is where your formula calculates to 1, and the percentage change is the same in price and quantity when it's unit. Then when it's inelastic, here's where you have more of a vertical curve, and where the elasticity of supply is less than 1. So the percentage change in quantity supplied is less than the percentage change in price. Okay, so that's our levels of elasticity. We got our formula in. Now I want to look to a situation of what perfectly inelastic looks like. Kind of a different little scenario here. I just wanted to point it out to you. This is signified by a vertical supply curve, indicates perfectly inelastic supply. So when you have this, and this will come up later on, this situation. But when you have this scenario, any change in price, any change in demand just moves up the supply curve really, because it's vertical. So if demand moves up or down, shifts, it'll move up and down the supply curve. That's what happens with perfectly inelastic. So that is just another possible scenario you might see. Okay. Some influences on the elasticity of supply. Okay. We got two main influences on the elasticity of supply. One is production possibilities. The other is storage possibilities. Production possibilities. If we have an elastic situation, the goods produced are with constant opportunity cost when we have elastic, and when we have inelastic, goods are produced in fixed quantity. Okay, so two differences there. The other influence is storage. That's production. So here is storage possibilities. When we got elastic, we're talking about storable goods. And the cost of storage is the main influence on the supply of storable goods. That's why that's important. Elastic, we're looking at non-storable goods. Okay. So you might want to remember cost of storage is the main influence on supply of a storable good. So that is the price elasticity of supply and price elasticity of demand. Let's see. Next, we'll look at the cross price elasticity of demand. Cross price is a measure of the extent to which the demand for a good changes when the price of a substitute or complement changes, not its own price. So again, cross price looking at change in demand when the price of a substitute changes. A little bit different. Formula for this is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price of the substitute or complement good. So CED is the cross price elasticity acronym for that. Okay, so if we do our calculation and our calculation is positive, it indicates a fall in the price of a substitute causes a decrease in quantity demanded, and the quantity demanded of good and price of a substitute change in the same direction. And this is what happens when you have a cross price and it's positive. So if I can get the graph here a little bit so you can see that too. Okay, here is a shift from the DO to D1. And that indicates a positive cross price elasticity situation. Okay. And then if we have a cross price elasticity for a complement and it's negative, it indicates a fall in the price of the complement causes an increase in the quantity demanded of the good, and the quantity of good and the price substitutes change in opposite direction versus the same direction that we looked at in the prior scenario. So again, if negative, the cross price is negative, then a fall in the price of the complement causes an increase in the quantity demanded of the good. And again, we can hopefully zoom in and somewhat see the graph, an illustration of this that we can look at. Here, the first thing happened, price of a burger, a substitute falls, demand for pizza decreases, positive cross price elasticity of demand is the first illustration. The second one uses a soda example very similarly. Okay, so that's cross price. Then the last aspect of elasticity we want to look at is income elasticity. Income elasticity. Here is a measure of the extent to which the demand for good changes when income changes, assuming other things stay the same. So income elasticity, we're seeing what happens if someone's income or business income or whatever type of income we're looking at goes up or down, how does that affect things? Okay. Calculated this is very similar that we have our other elasticity, percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in income instead of price. It's the same formula, just substituting price for income. Okay. So that's the gist of elasticity, basically very similar formulas for all types here, and are able to give you good indicators on what is happening when there's changes in the market. Hope that helps. Have a good day.